Discover how a struggling boy's incredible journey transformed him into the creator of Ferrari. Marco woke up every morning to the echo of his father's tools banging against the steel of the factory down the street. The reluctant hum of an aging vehicle would slice through the silence as he dreamt of racing down an endless road, taking sharp turns in a car of his own design. But his dreams collided with reality when he stepped outside, revealing shoddy shoes and neighbors who had little sympathy for a kid who loved cars but couldn't afford to own one. Look at Marco, the wannabe mechanic. They'd sneer, pouring scorn over his passion like rain on a sunny day. But everything changed the day he found the community garage. It was a refuge, a place where grease and old metal broke barriers. Mr. Thompson, a war veteran with hands that told stories of hardship and hope, took Marco under his wing. "You got that fire, kid," he'd say, eyes twinkling like the first light of dawn after a long night. Weeks turned into months as Marco immersed himself in the world of automotive engineering. They spent hours tinkering, building, dreaming an experience that stitched a father-son bond sealed with oil and ambition. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue, but just as Marco's dreams began to bloom, tragedy struck. An unfortunate accident left the community garage teetering on closure. Heart sinking, Marco felt as though his world was about to collapse. He finally had a place where he belonged, and now it was slipping from his fingers. Friends turned against each other. The cheers from before turned into whispers of betrayal. The dilemma gripped him tight. Should he save the garage or chase his dreams? The local car show loomed ahead, an event that sparkled with promise. As he fine-tuned his creation, doubts plagued him. Their eyes would be on him, critics clad in smirks and giggles. Yet, the thought of Mr. Thompson's encouraging words rang in his ears. Could this showcase ignite the respect he craved, or would it mark the end of something beautiful? The night before the show, Marco found himself wrestling with his father's demands for financial stability against his desire to pursue engineering. "You think this fancy art is going to feed you?" his dad shouted, frustration palpable in the air. Marco's heart pounded. "It might lead me somewhere better," he argued, but the chasm in understanding grew wider. At the car show, with his heart racing as fast as the engines he adored, Marco stood before a crowd that buzzed like a swarm of bees. His creation gleamed under the bright lights, as hope mixed with fear in his chest. Could he prove his worth as they watched, holding their judgments like stones? Time slowed as tension hung thick. Just before the results were announced, he grasped the steering wheel of his destiny, stood on the precipice of change. His father was out there, watching with narrowed eyes. Would he rise as a visionary or remain a boy lost in the noise? The air crackled with anticipation, and Marco felt it. This was more than just a car show. This was destiny calling. The crowd grew silent. A heartbeat echoed in Marco's ears as he stood there, feeling every pair of eyes trained on him. It was as if time had paused, and the world had shrunk to just him and the gleaming car. Each polished curve and vibrant color seemed to come alive, pulsing with the energy of his dreams. This was his moment, but it was drenched in uncertainty. Then, the announcer's voice cut through the stillness. "And the winner of the best design goes to," the words floated in the air, charged with the weight of Marco's hopes. He held his breath, praying for a chance to prove that his dreams mattered, that his efforts had counted for something. "Marco Rossi." The words crashed into him like a tidal wave, sudden and overwhelming. He didn't just hear them, he felt them resonate through his body. It was as if electricity surged through his veins, igniting something deep within. He staggered forward, processing the moment as the crowd erupted into applause. With each step, Marco could feel the warmth of support, the validation he craved. As he approached the stage, a mix of pride and disbelief danced across his face. The announcer handed him a trophy, but it felt minuscule compared to the sense of triumph swelling in his chest. Leaping up to grab the microphone, he threw a glance back at his father. There was uncertainty written all over his face, but in that split second, something shifted. Beneath the hard exterior, Marco could see a flicker of recognition. "This isn't just my win," Marco began, voice trembling but resolute. "It's for every kid who dreams of something bigger. This garage, our community, it deserves to thrive. Together we can fix what's broken." The crowd cheered, voices mingling into a deafening roar of hope. Even amidst claps and cheers, Marco felt his heart drum against expectations. The desire to chase his dreams weighed against the fear of letting everyone down. After the show, people came to congratulate him, slapping his back, shaking his hand. "Can't believe you did it, kid," one man said while a woman beamed. Her eyes shone teary with pride as she murmured, "Your creativity is alive, Marco. You brought life back to this community." Marco smiled, but the gnawing thought of the garage's future loomed. Every handshake and encouraging comment made him more aware of the stakes. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the people who had believed in him, who had helped him through the tough times. As he stepped aside, lost in thought, Mr. Thompson approached, his expression kind but serious. "You did good, Marco," he said, "but this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work ahead to keep our garage alive. Are you ready for that fight?" The weight of the words sank in. It was true. This achievement wasn't a finish line but merely a starting point. Marco nodded, determination setting in. "I'll do whatever it takes," he vowed, feeling a fire ignite within him again. But the looming question pressed in on him: how could he balance bringing success to the garage while chasing his own dream of becoming a master engineer? As he left the show, the twilight sky mirrored the conflict in his mind, highlighting the delicate balance he needed to strike. The battle ahead would not only shape his future but could also redefine the community he cared about. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one truth remained. He was ready to embrace whatever challenges came next. Would he manage to unite his dreams with the community's needs, or would he find himself torn between two worlds? As he stepped into the night, both excitement and fear swirled within him. The journey was far from over. The next morning, Marco awoke to the sun casting warmth across his bedroom. He lay there for a moment, feeling the aftermath of last night still buzzing in his blood. The trophy sat on his desk, its shiny surface glinting in the light, a constant reminder of his triumph. But it was not just a trophy. It was a commitment, a promise to himself and to the people who believed in him. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he shuffled to the window. The sounds of the neighborhood filled his ears. Laughter, the distant hum of lawn mowers, and the occasional bark of a dog. It was a perfect day, but beneath that calm, a storm of thoughts swirled in his mind. As the excitement from the contest faded, the reality of the garage loomed larger. Could he really make a difference? His phone buzzed beside the bed. A text from Sophie flashed on the screen. "Congrats again. Let us celebrate later?" Marco couldn't help but smile. She had always been his biggest supporter, cheering him on from the sidelines. He texted back, "Absolutely, can't wait." After a quick breakfast, he hopped on his bike and rode over to the garage. The sight of its worn exterior gave him a familiar rush of nostalgia. It was here, amidst the grease and metal, that he had found his passion. Today, though, felt different. Today, he needed to rally his friends, bring them together and lay out a plan. Arriving at the garage, he was greeted by the familiar chime of the door and the welcoming scent of oil and tires. The community space was buzzing with life. Kids were playing outside, while adults repaired bikes and chatted. Marco found Mr. Thompson working on the engine of an old car, the sound of tools clanging rhythmically. "Hey, Marco." Mr. Thompson looked up, a broad smile spreading across his face. "You're a star today. We're proud of you." "Thanks, Mr. Thompson," Marco replied, feeling both proud and anxious. "I think it's time for us to have a meeting. I want to talk about how we can make the garage even better." A flicker of surprise crossed Mr. Thompson's features. "You're serious? You want to take the lead?" Yes, Marco said, determination surging through him. I want to gather everyone and discuss what we can do to support each other and our dreams. Mr. Thompson nodded, the corners of his eyes crinkling with approval. All right, let us do it. I'll set up the chairs outside. Took less than an hour to gather people. Soon they filled the garage, some leaning against walls, others sitting in damaged chairs. The air buzzed with curiosity. Marco felt his heart race as he stood before them, all eyes on him. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. Last night was a win for me, but it's a win for all of us. We need to create a plan, something that shows what we can achieve together. As he spoke, he saw faces lighting up with hope, real interest and spark igniting in their eyes. He laid out his vision, creating workshops, hosting events, and involving more kids from the community. The ideas flowed, passionate voices overlapping, building a vision that felt palpable. But doubt still tugged at Marco's heart. What if they were too ambitious? What if they failed? As the meeting closed, someone raised a hand, voice trembling but clear. What if we mess up, Marco? Silence fell. Every eye shifted to Marco. The weight of that question hung in the air, a truth that felt both terrifying and real. A lump formed in his throat, but he swallowed hard. Then we learn. We get back up and try again, he replied, fear and determination woven together like a tightrope he had to walk. We can't let fear hold us down. We owe it to ourselves and each other to give this a shot. The room erupted with a mix of cheers and laughs, and Marco felt a surge of warmth wash over him. This journey was just beginning, and with every step, he was gathering strength not just for himself, but for all of them. As he stepped outside into the afternoon sun, the weight of the past started to lift, yet a new burden settled in his gut. The plans ahead felt daunting, but there was hope, too, radiant and bright. What unforeseen challenges would they face together? Would the rising tide of optimism drown out the undercurrents of fear? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Marco's heart raced not just with dreams, but a deep realization. The real work was just beginning. The next day brought an unexpected energy, almost electric. Marco arrived at the garage feeling the weight of his aspirations pressing down on him. The sun was shining fiercely, and it seemed as if the world outside was vibrant with possibilities. Inside, the chatter of the community was a comforting sound, a reminder that he was not alone in this venture. Marco gathered everyone again, but this time there was an urgency in his voice. Today we need to take our ideas and turn them into action. We've talked about our dreams. Now let us make this happen. The room buzzed with eagerness. Hands went up, and voices chimed in. They divided into groups, each tackling different ideas. One group focused on setting up workshops for kids. Another brainstormed contests to engage the community. Marco moved from group to group, heart swelling with pride. This felt good. This felt right. As they worked, Marco saw not just his friends but the potential of their whole neighborhood. His vision for the garage was morphing into something more, a safe haven for kids, a gathering place for families, a hub of creativity and learning. But as the enthusiasm buzzed like a hive, his gaze fell on a corner of the garage where a battered bike lay forgotten, its tires flat, its paint peeling. A memory tugged at Marco's heart. He remembered when he had first fixed it up, learning the ropes with Mr. Thompson beside him. He wondered how many more kids could find joy in learning mechanics. Everyone, let us not forget the kids who might have no ride to get here. Why don't we organize a bike repair day? We can get more kids involved and give them a chance to learn. His voice rang through the chatter, pulling everyone's attention. A chorus of agreements erupted, and Marco was reminded of why this meant so much to him. He was not just creating a place to work on cars and bikes. He was building a community that cared for one another. This wasn't just another project, it was a path to something bigger. But as the excitement soared, Marco found himself shadowed by uncertainty again. A flicker of doubt gnawed at him. What if all of this didn't pan out? What if people promised support but didn't come through? The thought was enough to squeeze his chest tight, but he pushed it down. Let us set a date for our bike repair day. He cleared his throat, wanting to quell his growing anxiety. "We'll do it next Saturday. By then, we can gather supplies and start spreading the word." The cheers that erupted from the crowd felt like a warm blanket wrapping around him. "See? We're already moving forward," Marco insisted, but he knew the reality was just beginning to settle. As the meeting came to a close, Sophie approached him with eyes sparkling with energy. "You really are inspiring them, Marco. I could see the change in everyone when you spoke." He smiled, the warmth of her support wrapping around him. "I just hope it all works out. I can't help but wonder, what if we don't get the turnout we're hoping for? What if the kids we want to help don't show?" Sophie placed her hand on his shoulder reassuringly. "You will never know until you try. And maybe what you need won't come from the kids you expect. Maybe it'll come from somewhere completely unexpected." Her words lingered with him, mingling with his doubts and hopes. As the afternoon wore on, Marco couldn't shake that sense of uncertainty creeping in again. What if the risks they took formed stones in their path instead of stepping stones? As he locked up the garage, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the driveway. With every step back home, the question nagged at him. Would their community stand strong together when the real challenges arose? The week slipped by faster than Marco anticipated. Each day, he found himself juggling doubts while trying to keep the momentum alive. The excitement from the meeting faded into a frantic scramble for supplies for Saturday's bike repair day. He visited local shops, pleading for donations to fix the old bikes that cluttered the corners of the garage. Some shop owners smiled and handed him tools, while others didn't share his vision, shrugging him off. Friday night, he lay awake in bed, turning the events of the week over and over in his mind. Heart racing like a tuned-up engine, the weight of what he was trying to achieve pressed down harder. Would anyone show up? Would kids actually come to learn? He knew how hard it was for some of them just to get to the garage, especially with the streets they had to navigate. As the clock ticked towards dawn, Marco remembered Mr. Thompson's words. Sometimes, you have to make a little noise to shake things up. He took a deep breath and embraced that thought, letting it pulse through him like the rhythmic thrum of a revving engine. The morning sun broke through the clouds, painting the world in bright colors. Marco arrived at the garage early, excitement blending with the remnants of his dread. He set up a table outside, draping a banner he had made himself. Bike repair day, everyone welcome. It flapped in the breeze, a bright signal of welcome. Others began to arrive. First just a trickle of familiar faces, Sophie, and a few friends with smiles that lit up the place. They got to work, setting up tools, organizing the parts, all while keeping the atmosphere light and hopeful. Marco started to relax, feeling the energy shift back to something positive. But as the hour approached, doubt crept in again. Where were the kids he wanted to help? As the sun shone brightly, he scanned the street, the weight of expectation settling back on his shoulders. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw them kids from the neighborhood, some riding bikes, others walking, calling to one another with laughter and shouts, drawn in by the buzz. Hope sparked in Marco as he raced toward them, heart leaping. "Hey, you all here for bike repair day?" Marco called out, spreading his arms wide, welcoming them in. "Yeah. We heard you could fix our bikes." A boy beamed, clutching his handlebars tightly. Another girl, eyes wide with curiosity, pointed toward the table filled with tools. With every kid that joined, Marco felt the crushing weight of doubt begin to lift. Their cheers became contagious, filling the garage with laughter and energy. They gathered around him, eager to help, questions flying as quickly as the tools moved. "Let us get started," Marco shouted. Instructions flowed, and they began working together to breathe life back into each battered bike. Kids were scurrying around, so excited to be part of something real. Sophie caught Marco's eye, and he shared a smile filled with pride and relief. This was it. This was what he wanted from the beginning, a community united, learning together, sharing stories and laughter. As the sun hung in the sky, Marco felt a surge of gratitude wash over him. It was more than just fixing bikes. It was about connections and building trust. But even as he savored the moment, lingering questions remained. What would happen after today? Would they continue to come back, hungry for more? As they worked through broken spokes and flat tires, he realized that repairing the bikes was only part of the journey. Every bike fixed was a promise made, a connection forged. But with his heart racing with excitement and hope, one thought nagged at him: would this just be the beginning? Or would the thrill of this day eventually fade along with the summer sun? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the garage. Laughter echoed as the kids tackled their projects. Marco felt the warmth of their energy buzzing electric. The bikes transformed under their hands, brightening the garage as rust and wear faded away. One kid, a small girl with pigtails named Mia, waved her hand excitedly. "Marco, look, I fixed my tire." She spun her bike in a proud circle, and Marco's heart swelled. "That's amazing, Mia. You did that all by yourself. Can I fix another one?" she asked, eyes sparkling with determination. "Absolutely. Let us get you started." Marco showed her how to assess another bike's condition, and soon, Mia was deep in her work. The garage filled with other bikes brought in by eager hands. Kids gathered around each other, sharing tools, stories, and a sense of belonging. Marco floated from one group to another, letting their momentum carry him. He helped one child secure a loose chain while another ran past, giggling and racing their friends down the makeshift track they had laid out in the yard. Just as he felt the day was perfect, he spotted a figure lingering at the edge, older, hesitant, looking down at the ground. It was Danny, a boy from the neighborhood known for his aloofness. Marco had often skipped over Danny's name when thinking about kids who might benefit from the day. He struggled with shyness and often kept to himself. Marco's heart sank slightly. "Hey, Danny," Marco called, waving. "Are you coming to join us?" The boy shifted, his hands buried deep in his pockets. I don't really have a bike," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "You don't need one. We have plenty. Just come hang out. We're all learning and having fun together." Marco smiled, hoping to bridge the gap. Danny took a tiny step forward, but then hesitated again. Marco felt a spark of determination. He walked over, kneeling so they were eye to eye. "You're welcome here, Danny. No one's judging. We're just learning and helping each other." After a moment that felt heavy with tension, Danny's gaze flicked to the garage filled with laughter and activity. He finally nodded, albeit tentatively. "Okay." His voice was still quiet but revealed a hint of bravery. Marco's heart raced not just from the joy of bringing another kid into their fold, but because he sensed the importance of this moment. It was transformation in action. "Let us find the perfect bike for you," Marco said, clapping Danny on the shoulder. As they approached the line of bikes, Marco found himself filled with hope. Each child reacting, each bond forming, was a step toward something bigger than just repairs. As the sun began to disappear, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Marco looked around. The garage felt like a world of its own, bursting with potential and connection. What started as an idea was growing into something larger than himself. The anticipation of seeing each kid's spirit become more alive with every turn of a wrench filled him with pride. But just then, the laughter was interrupted by the distant rumble of thunder. The sky darkened ominously. Marco exchanged nervous glances with Sophie. Would the storm disrupt their progress? Would it end the magic that was happening here today? The sound of raindrops began to patter against the garage roof, a warning that cut through the joyous atmosphere. Marco glanced back at Danny, who looked bewildered. Would this be a setback or a new beginning for him? As the rain poured down, Marco stood, heart still racing. He couldn't let this moment slip away. "All right, everyone, gather around," he shouted, hoping to rally their spirits. "We're not done yet." But as he spoke, a new thought flickered in his mind. In moments of challenge, true growth could be forged. What if the rain brought new opportunities to unite them further? Determined, Marco prepared to adapt, embracing the storm as part of their journey. With every heart ready to connect, what new lessons awaited them with the first drops of rain? The rain beat against the garage roof, a steady drum that filled the space with its rhythmic symphony. In that moment, as droplets blurred the world outside, Marco felt something shift. He caught Sophia's eye, and she smiled reassuringly. It was as if they both understood. This wasn't a setback. This was a chance for deeper connection. Listen up. Marco called out again, louder now. The rain doesn't have to stop us. If anything, it makes this even more exciting. We can learn how to make repairs while working against the elements. Some kids dropped their tools, looking at Marco with wide eyes. Others exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of this unexpected twist. But Mia, ever the spark of enthusiasm, jumped up and down. Yeah. Let us fix bikes in the rain. That'll be fun. With a laugh, Danny stepped closer, encouraged by Mia. His initial uncertainty began to melt away. Marco could see the gears turning in Danny's mind. This was a moment of courage, the kind that might stick with him long after the rain stopped. Here's the deal, Marco proposed. We'll divide into teams. One group can start on repairs inside while the other takes a break under this roof. And when the rain slows down, we can all go out and ride together. The kids erupted into cheers. Marco felt a rush of adrenaline. Each child's response felt like a gift, a sign that he was tapping into something genuine and powerful. They were engaged, sharing strategies and laughter, excitement replacing any hesitation. Even Danny started trying to smile. As they set to work, Marco noticed how the storm outside became a backdrop to their own mini-world. The rain created an atmosphere, pooling around their feet, warmth radiating from their activity within. They learned to adapt to replace gears, tighten bolts, and make mechanical adjustments, all while feeling part of something greater. Danny was still quiet but focused. He picked up a wrench that looked almost too big for him and studied Mia as she worked. How do I? He asked, showing her the rusted chain he had picked. Let me show you. Mia rushed over, guiding him through the process. In that moment, their bond formed invisibly but firmly, a thread connecting them amidst the thunder. Meanwhile, Marco took a step back, watching the transformation unfold. Laughter and shouts of encouragement filled the space, and he was overwhelmed. This wasn't just about bikes anymore. This was about building confidence, friendships, and resilience. Another clap of thunder startled them all, but no one flinched or retreated. Instead, they looked at each other and burst into laughter, embracing the absurdity of it all. The rain poured harder, blurring the view of the yard where sunflowers swayed under the storm's force. Okay, let us see that teamwork, Marco shouted. He watched as kids worked in unison, fixing, encouraging, and creating. He could hardly believe this was the same group of kids who walked in shy and uncertain. As the storm showed no signs of letting up, they settled into a rhythm. Each turn of a wrench coincided with a burst of creativity, and when they paused, it was to share stories filled with dreams and aspirations. Danny even exchanged a few words with Mia, revealing snippets of his own journey. Then, as if sensing the magic happening inside, the rain eased, turning to a gentle drizzle. Marco felt the urge to seize the opportunity. Let us get ready. Let us take those bikes for a spin. The kids erupted in cheers again, and Marco's heart surged. Today was unlike anything he had hoped it would be. Every tear shed by a child, every laugh shared, was about the moment they chose vulnerability over isolation. But just as the last few raindrops fell, Marco noticed something strange, a figure watching them from the driveway. It wasn't just anyone. It was Marco's dad, standing there, arms crossed, ready to pass judgment. The weight of his father's gaze settled over Marco like a cloud. Would this day be seen as a failure to him? Or would he finally understand what his son had created? With the showdown on the horizon, Marco's heart raced once again. What would happen next? Would he have the courage to tell his father about the extraordinary bonds formed today? Marco's breath caught in his throat as he felt his father's intense gaze, a mix of confusion and concern radiating from him. The garage felt smaller suddenly. The laughter that filled the space faded into an uneasy silence, the kids glancing over to see what had shifted. Dad, Marco started, wishing he could find the right words while knowing his father had always been a man of few. That steadiness, a constant source of strength, suddenly felt like a barrier between them. "Is this your idea of a bike repair workshop?" His dad's voice boomed over the rain's fading symphony, sharp as a crack of lightning. "It's more than that," Marco replied, summoning courage from somewhere deep inside. "We've been having fun, and the kids are learning. Their teamwork is incredible." His father's expression didn't change. Arms still crossed, eyes unyielding. "It doesn't look like a workshop to me. You can't just throw kids together and hope for the best." Danny, hearing the tension, shifted uncomfortably, gripping his wrench tighter. Marco shot him a reassuring look, urging him to stay put. This was his moment and he had to own it. "Actually, it's exactly that. They've transformed," Marco insisted, pointing toward the group now buzzing with energy. "They came in shy, but they've worked together, laughed, and helped each other." Sophie stepped forward, sensing the need for support. "Mr. Giordano, they've fixed 2 bikes already. And it's not just repairs. They're building friendships." Danny here was really unsure at first, but look at him now. Danny, jolted by the mention of his name, nodded. "I learned a lot," he stammered, his voice small but gaining strength. "Mia helped me with the chain. I didn't think I could do it." Marco's dad looked around the garage, taking in the brightening faces, the proudly displayed bikes waiting to be ridden. Laughter began to bubble back up, encouraged by their newfound confidence. "Yeah," Mia shouted, her energy contagious. "And Marco planned all of this. We were nervous, but now it's so cool." Marco's heart raced as he watched his dad's expression shift, the steely grip loosening, if only slightly. "You weren't just playing out here, were you?" "No, we worked hard," Marco said, feeling the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. "We learned to communicate, to fix things together, to support one another. Isn't that what it's about?" Finally, his father uncrossed his arms, letting out a breath Marco hadn't realized he'd been holding. "I see. Maybe I jumped to conclusions again." The words came out slowly, as if testing the waters of understanding. Before Marco could respond, thunder rumbled again, making their group glance anxiously at the sky. Sophie tugged on Marco's sleeve, her eyes wide with excitement. "Let us ride, Marco. The rain is gone." "Well, what do you say, Dad?" Marco turned back to his father, a hopeful urgency in his voice. "Will you watch us?" For a moment his father hesitated. It was just a bike ride. But in that plea Marco was searching for acknowledgement. Did his dad see the worth of what they created together? With a small nod his father replied, "All right, I'll watch." Cheers erupted as the kids seemed to bounce on their heels in unison, reaching for their bikes. Marco's heart swelled. They would ride together and show how much they had grown. As they spilled out into the yard, ready for their adventure, Marco's spirit soared. But a new feeling began to creep in. With his father finally there, watching, would he feel the need to adjust who he had become? Would he still be able to lead? As the rush of the group zoomed forward, Marco turned to glance at his dad trailing behind. The question loomed large in the air. What would the ride reveal about their own journey together? In the rush and excitement, would they break the barriers between them? Or would Marco find himself riding into an unknown road that would challenge not just his skills, but his very relationship with his father? The sun broke through the clouds just as Marco and the kids sped out onto the open road. The air felt fresh, filled with the sweet scent of wet grass and the promise of adventure. As they pedaled harder, laughter and shouts of joy escaped their lips, echoing through the quiet neighborhood. "Look at me go," Mia exclaimed, her hair flying behind her like a banner. "Catch me if you can," Danny shouted playfully, veering off the path in excitement. Marco cheered them on, feeling a bubble of pride swell in his chest. They were becoming the team he'd hoped for, transformed by the simple act of work and play. He glanced back at his father, who had taken a few slow steps away from the garage, leaning casually against the wall and watching with a skeptical face. Marco's heart raced. He wanted his dad to truly see the joy they had created. "Dad," Marco called as he slowed down, urging the kids to take a break. "Come on, join us. It's fun." His father's lips twitched, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The distance between them felt heavy, filled with years of unsaid words and missed moments. Would he really be willing to participate? Marco held his breath, hoping for a shift. After what felt like an eternity, his dad finally pushed off the wall and walked toward the bikes. "All right, I'll give it a try." The words came out hesitantly, yet a small smile broke through. "Awesome," Marco beamed. He quickly showed his dad how to adjust the bike seat and how to balance properly. The others watched with wide eyes, the atmosphere buzzing with hope and excitement. As they began to ride together, pedaling side by side, Marco's heart soared. Each turn they took felt like a small victory. He could hear the kids calling out encouragements, their voices blending into a beautiful symphony of support. "Slow down," his father said, struggling to keep pace. "You've got to take it easy on me." Laughter erupted again among the children, lifting the moment high and bursting with joy. Marco felt a wave of warmth. Perhaps this wasn't just about the ride. It was about letting their barriers come down, sharing these small victories with one another. Yet beneath the laughter, a hint of nervousness simmered. How would this ride affect Marco's ability to lead? Would his father respect his choices, or would he be caught in the web of expectations that had built up over the years? As they made their way up a small hill, Marco glanced at his father's panting face, and for the first time he saw someone who was also learning. It was a relief but also strange. "Let us race," Sophie cried. Danny and Mia cheered in agreement. "Race? You think you can beat me?" Marco teased, adrenaline rushing through him. He pushed ahead, followed closely by the younger kids, laughter swirling around them. But as he raced, he felt a sudden urge to look back again, longing for recognition from his father. Would he ever see the strength Marco found in leading these kids, in transforming their lives? Just when Marco felt confident, it happened. A sudden jarring vibration rippled through his handlebars. The bike wobbled, and for a split second, an overwhelming panic surged within him. He knew he had to steady himself, but did he have the courage to not just keep himself upright but to ensure everyone else was as well? The speed and thrill of the moment clashed with fear, and just like that, the question lingered in the air. Would they all rise together, or would one misstep shatter the fragile bonds he had begun to forge? The answer loomed ahead, seeming just out of reach, as they sped down the hill. The ride had only just begun, and the real challenge still awaited them. The thrill of the descent swept through Marco like a rush of wind, blurring the world around him. Laughter echoed behind him as the group raced down the hill, but the moment of panic gripped him tighter. He couldn't let go. He couldn't crash, he had to stay in control. Suddenly, Marco heard a shout. "Watch out!" Danny's voice carried with urgency, and Marco instinctively swerved to his left to avoid a deep pothole that had appeared out of nowhere. It was too late. The bike lurched as Marco fought to regain balance. His heart thundered in his chest. The handlebars wobbled violently, and just as Marco felt himself tipping, his father surged forward. With a swift move, he reached out and steadied Marco's bike, keeping him upright. The moment hung in the air, suspended in time. Marco locked eyes with his father, and everything fell silent for a heartbeat. There was a depth in his father's gaze that communicated something profound. "Gotcha," his father said, a small grin breaking through the tension. The worry faded from Marco's expression as relief flooded in. "Thanks. I didn't mean to scare you," Marco laughed, breathless but grateful. "Next time, focus on the road." His dad chuckled back, shaking his head but visibly relaxed now, like the dam had finally cracked open. They regrouped at the bottom of the hill, the kids panting and glowing with excitement. It felt different now, the atmosphere was charged with a new energy. Was it the thrill of the ride? Or the realization that they could lean on each other? "Let us do that again," Mia shouted, her face bright with enthusiasm. "Yep. But this time I'll try to keep up," Danny chimed in, his voice bubbling with newfound confidence. As they organized for another race, Marco turned to his father, who watched the kids with interest. "You really saved me back there," Marco said quietly, feeling the weight of gratitude behind the words. His father shrugged, but his smile lingered. Maybe it's good to have a backup plan every now and then. Just remember, being a leader means knowing when to let others step in. Marco processed the wisdom in his father's words. Leadership wasn't just about taking charge. It was also about trusting the people around you to support one another. Perhaps today wasn't just about him finding his path, but about inviting his father on the journey. 2. Want to join us for another round? Marco asked, his heart racing for an entirely different reason now. Incredibly, he saw his dad consider it before shaking his head, laughter erupting in his chest. I think I'll just watch this time. These kids have more energy than I can handle. Marco led the charge up the hill again, and as they gathered for another race, he felt light. This wasn't simply about bikes or fixing things anymore. This was about connection, community, and the unbreakable bonds being forged amidst laughter and support. The storm had passed, leaving clear skies that mirrored the newfound clarity between them. As they rumbled down the hill once more, wind at their backs and hearts in sync, Marco realized this was more than just a day at the garage. This was a pivotal moment, a transformation of both him and his father, a tender dance of acceptance and understanding between generations. The ride may have started as an adventure to fix bikes, but it had morphed into something larger, an awakening for every soul involved. Marco felt buoyed by the energy. This was the moment he had longed for, where dreams merged with reality and every member of this community held a place in it. As they reached the bottom again, breaths coming in eager gasps, Marco took in the vibrant scene before him, kids giggling, parents smiling, and his father standing proud. All right, everyone, who's up for a victory lap? Laughter erupted as they lined up once more. Marco grinned, excitement thrumming within him. This was not just a ride. It was a journey they would travel together. In that moment, he understood the power of connection, of dreams interlaced like threads in a tapestry. They would continue to rise together, combining their paths, their struggles, and their triumphs, transforming what started as a small community garage into a haven of hope. As the sun set, the horizon painted in shades of orange and purple, Marco felt a sense of peace settle within him. This was the beginning of a beautiful legacy, one built on dreams, perseverance, and the unwavering belief that together, they could achieve anything. And as they raced together into the sunset, one thought lingered. What future adventures awaited them? Would they keep pushing each other to new heights? Whatever lay ahead, he knew they would conquer it together. And you don't forget to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Tell us how you're feeling about this ending in the comments below. Your voices matter. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Join our community together. We can accomplish great things. Don't wait not even one more second to share.